Hi there and welcome to another edition of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, the independent podcast which is brought to you by fans for fans where the content is free. It is episode 162 of the flagship weekly show. I'm your host tonight, Colin Armstrong. We'll be looking at the Hearts game today, obviously a big win today at Tynecastle, so we'll be looking at that. As I say every week, guys, it's not just the pod that we have here at Gersnet. We've got the forums on the website, articles, match previews, all that kind of stuff. There's a history archive on there as well. So get yourself on there if you can. If you like what we do here at Gersnet, we would ask you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're approaching 5,000 subscribers. I think we're about 30 or 40 away at the moment. So it'd be good to get to the 5,000 mark sometime soon. I've got two guests that were pretty much in from day one of the Gersnet podcast, and two of my fellow members of the Gersnet Pollock Supporters Club. We both took in a game earlier on this season. John, I'll bring you in first. How are you? How's your weekend going?
It's okay. It's been improved today. I was saying to people earlier, I got my booster on Friday, so wasn't feeling great Friday night, wasn't feeling great Saturday, but feeling better today. The Rangers winning always helps. Cures all low and small ailments. Puts a smile on everyone's face. So yeah, can't complain. Weather's rotten. Sorting stuff for Christmas. Rangers win. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I went for my booster on Friday. I'd missed it last week. I'd forgot all about it and I'd missed it, so I rescheduled. And the queue was, honestly, God, it was like Sucky Hall Street on a Saturday in the 80s. It was just mental.
How long did you wait?
I didn't. I was speaking to someone and they said it was like an hour, over an hour that folk were waiting. I was just like...
Yeah, I was 45 minutes. I had a booking that was 45 minutes, but what are you going to do?
No, well, I'll try and book it. Well, I had a booking, that's the thing, but they were just mixing it. You know what I mean? It was just the queue and that was it. So I'll try and book it. I've been hearing folks saying that if you go through the day, it's not as quiet. This was sort of Friday tea time. So obviously loads of people maybe finishing for work and stuff like that. So I'll try and book it another time and get it sorted because it's on the up again, and it's maybe something we'll touch on towards the end of the show.
I think we might have to.
Yeah, because...
Well, I think it's probably just worth, I think because David's on, it's probably worth just pointing out that you and I, of course, aren't actually Pollock supporters. You know, we were blow-ins. We were simply glory hunters.
That's all. I've got an affiliation with Pollock.
Junior selections aren't competing at that kind of level, are they? Let's be honest. So I think that's only fair that we point that out and let David, bask in the glory that is, what, second place still? Is that still second place in that league? I think they are.
Aye. Still second, John.
Yeah,
were you there yesterday, David?
I was indeed, Colin. I was indeed. Yet another showing of undeniable Wally Colin type refereeing from yet another junior referee. Whether he was fast tracked or no, I don't know. Probably two men sent off, and you guys have been over the course before. You know the story about junior football, so no shocks there. But they won 6-0, so and then Rangers win the day, which is obviously takes the precedent priority over Pollock. So all's good.
All good. Right, guys. Well, we'll get straight in about it. We'll get straight in about the Hearts game today. I mean, John, I'll come back to you. I mean, we've spoke a few times on the show in the sort of build up to December and sort of during it that big month. A few tricky fixtures on there, heavy fixture list. Quite lucky that the game on Thursday was a bit of a dead rubber. We could rest players, but I felt today. Speaking yesterday with Alex on the pod, and he was sort of saying, that new manager bounce has finished now. It was time to make a statement. And it felt like that today, a really a good win in a tricky venue, in a venue that we've not always enjoyed, the most success in. So it felt like a bit of a statement today.
Yeah. I thought I was a bit nervous about today. I mean, I know Thursday wasn't necessarily the toughest away European match we've taken part in this year, but we still had to travel to it. Styles have still got to put in 90 minutes, and you got to come back for a lunchtime kick-off on a Sunday. I still think there's an element of disruption to your planning for that, which I don't think is ideal. So I have to say I was very pleased with how they set about them, how they went about the game, and what was a tricky match. Full Tynecastle can be an intimidating place for some players. I thought we were excellent.
Especially when we can't play in front of crowds. That's the accusation. We're playing in front of crowds.
Yeah, this is it. I thought. I think Hearts are having a good season. I think they were unbeaten at home before today. Hearts had their moments, and I think you have to expect that. I think you need to say, the Hearts will, away from home, they're always going to create a couple of chances. It's about all 11 players in the park. I was delighted with the result, and I'm actually very pleased with the performance. There was bits you can still improve, but overall I thought the best team won.
Yeah, wouldn't disagree with that. And I mean, there's a lot of chat about the amount of chances Hearts had, and I was looking at the stats, and like they had more of the possession, they had more shots on goal and all that kind of thing. But I think you're right. I think we controlled the game largely and did look, especially once we went 2-0 up, it was a case of sort of sitting back and trying to hit them on the counter, which we'll go into more detail a wee bit that further down. David, I want to speak to you about the starting 11. I mean, after Thursday night, I thought Gio was giving us a wee hint as to how he might set up. I thought with Lundstrom being in there, that he was maybe going to go with the two sitting midfielders. I thought the team largely picked itself. I thought the only two positions I wasn't sure about, I thought, will he go with Hadji, or will he go with Arfield? Will he go with Lundstrom, or will he go with Davis? Well, with the latter two, he didn't go with any. I don't think anyone's seen that. No Davis or Lundstrom. Sakala coming in, that was a bit of a surprise. But I don't know how you felt, but it made me feel like Gio fancies us. He's going to go for this. It felt like quite an attacking sort of starting 11.
I think you've always got a chance in a game when you get pace like we've got up front, Colin. In the middle of the park, I've got to be honest, I know he doesn't necessarily play in the engine room, so to speak, but I was glad that Hadji wasn't involved, certainly in that first half, because Hadji, I rate him as a player. He's technically very gifted, but he's very enigmatic. Sometimes he can look a little better, and then there's other times he looks as if he's just been introduced to a ball. And the kind of frenetic, typical Tynecastle atmosphere type park. Robbie Nielsen having them fired up, he closed you down early. I think that Hadji would possibly be overwhelmed and swamped in his current form. That is, I've got to caveat what I'm saying by stating that. But they looked as though they meant business. I like the fact that Scott Arfield's back in the side. I know he's maybe not 100% match sharp, but you know what you're going to get for Scott Arfield. John Lundstrom, we've spoke about John Lundstrom before in that pod, and he's yet to kind of show the type of form that we thought we were going to get when he came in at first. But I mean, he's not been poor by any manner of means, but he's not exactly set the header alight. So, but opening minutes, obviously, to be 2-0 up inside quarter an hour, it's the manager was vindicated with his team selection. Although Hearts could have went in front before we scored, but I thought he certainly set his stall out, and I think we're starting to see how he wants to play. As Alex obviously mentioned there off air, that you're starting to see how he wants to shape the team, and especially how he's deploying Glenn Kamara of late. I mean, I think that maybe will show us how he might move in the transfer market. I could be right to the mark, but that's what I think might be happening.
John, in terms of what David's saying there, we got the 2 goals. I think we were 2-0 up with sort of 18 minutes or something like that. But Hearts did have that. The first sort of 5, 6, 7 minutes where they came at us, and Robbie Nielsen was speaking yesterday saying, or maybe it was Friday, he was saying in his press conference that he really fancied Hearts today, and they're undefeated at Tynecastle. That's the first defeat that's been inflicted on them there this season. First time they've been behind in a game at Tynecastle this season. And it felt like, I went in, when I seen the lineup, I was like, oh, that way you get all up front, and you're like, yes, come on, you know what I mean? And then within 5 minutes, I was like, oh, actually, this is maybe going to be a wee bit nerve-wracking than I thought. And McGregor had to pull off the save. I think boys should have scored that. I think if he'd connected with it properly, McGregor was too far off. But there was that feeling in the first 5-10 minutes, oh, actually, we're in a game here.
But it's Hearts away. Hearts having a decent season at Tynecastle, of course you're in a game. I don't think we should be surprised at that Hearts, took the game to us. That's particularly the way their season's been going. Hearts went into that game with nothing to lose. Hearts go into these kind of games, perhaps later in the season, if there's, the chance they're going to miss out in Europe or something like that, they might come in and think, right, we'll play for a point. They came thinking, we can get a win today. And that's great. That's what made it a decent spectacle. So it made it a half-decent game of football to watch. So I don't have any concerns over the fact that Hearts came out and had a go at us, and I think we expected that. I thought the boys' chance, I agree he should have scored it, but I think that maybe takes a little away from McGregor from what was, quite the acrobatic save. To get his I don't know, what was his, when he full leap, what was he, 7 foot off the ground, his hand when he touched that ball? It was a ridiculous save. And to have managed that save, to have knocked that ball like that, I was very, very impressed with that. But, it was a ball over the top. It was slack defending, but I felt they kind of learned from that. The Hearts didn't manage that again. All our other attacks were, had to come from different ways. The defence, that happened that once, it didn't happen again. So a bit slack at the start. But, Hearts are going to come and have a go. You got to expect that. In fact, you got to welcome it. That's the whole point of going to these grounds, is that these teams come and have a go at you and you go toe to toe, and ultimately he picked the right team. Ultimately, we took our chances and they didn't, and that's why we're the champions. And well, to be fair, they're the champions as well, but of a different division.
So we've been there before ourselves.
I don't blame their manager for. I didn't actually know their manager had been at Rangers. I just discovered that today.
As a boy, yeah, that's right.
I didn't know that.
I feel I should point out when it comes to Robbie Nielsen that my wife was sitting in the living room today in the early exchanges of the game, which is always a pleasure. When you're stressed out and you're watching the football, to have your wife sitting there asking questions, and it always makes it a more enjoyable spectacle. But she pointed out when Robbie Nielsen came on the camera, she's like, "What is his hair all about?" And I was like, what? Fair play. That Barnett is a shocker. Fair enough. Barry Mackay's getting a bit of stick for his hair, but he's what, 25, 26 or whatever.
Yeah,
I think Robbie Nielsen needs to realise that the days are gone, I think. So that was my wife's contribution to the game today. And
anyone's hair she did like, Colin?
No, she just sort of commented on Nielsen saying, "What is that Barnett all about?"
I just assumed that Nielsen's rubbing it in with the two assistants, with Naismith and whoever his other assistant is, who are, follically challenged, shall we say. I just assume he just...
Nielsen has a wee bit as well.
I'm going to be a while in the shower,
I think Nielsen's I think he's covering up a few patches there, I must admit. But anyway, that was
a metaphor for Hearts all over, but anyway.
Gaps in the defence. Anyway, that was her, and I was sitting there with my mug of Thompsons at the time too, so that was all down to you. Right, David, on to the opening goal. And, as I said, we sort of weathered that early storm, made a couple of chances, that save from McGregor. But we settled down, and, I felt Kent's involvement was really good. I thought he played really well today. I thought he was on it today. Puts the ball across. Sakala, his involvement key. Great finish from Morelos. I'm sure Twitter will be awash with Kent was offside, Hun referee, Mason's conspiracy, but I don't think it was. I think it was a great goal, and it's good to everyone's involvement in it. Kent, Sakala, but Sakala especially, because he's had a fairly slow start to his Rangers career, and I thought he didn't have a perfect game today, but he had some moments, and his involvement in that goal was key.
Good goal, Cole. As you say, Ryan Kent's looking like the player that we know he can be. Cast my mind back to Easter Road when he looked. I said to my brother after the game that his performance back then looked as if his head might have been turned. I don't know where I'm getting that from. Just maybe falling for the press speculation nonsense as usual. But today, if his head has been turned, he certainly didn't let it affect his game today. He played really, really well. Sakala again, he's endeavour. He's got the right attitude. He wants the ball. He's turned a pace over 5 yards is exceptional, and he turned the wee fella Devlin. Was showing him a clean pair of heels in the box. Devlin couldn't touch him, and then obviously his presence of mind to cut the ball back for Alfie. Great finish. And I heard all the naysayers that say Kent was offside. I think the TV pictures showed that wasn't the case. That Craig Halkett was at least in line, if not actually towards his own goal line further than Brian Kent was. So, and he did well to actually avoid it, because his old the old Niagara's could have taken a sore flick had he not got up for higher. But no, a good finish, and it set the scene, because it kind of took a wee bit of the wind out of Hearts' sails, or Hearts' sail, I should say. And the next 5 minutes was obviously key to the outcome of the game. And I was saying to Stuart off air, I thought there was passages of play today that were, Rangers could show that they can be a very incisive team, and the two moves, well, certainly talking about the first goal, the move was very, very good. Obviously, the cross was just a wee bit too high for Alfie, or he might have just, he might have stuck the header in, but at least Sakala, I know there was a bit of criticism, if that's the right word, but there was a comment about maybe he should have been anticipating that ball going over the top of Morelos and should have been closer in and had the chance earlier. But at least he reacted, and he took the player on, and he managed to create an assist, as the stats guys like to call him these days. So, more power to him, and I just like his infectious enthusiasm. I'd like to see him score an important winner. I know he had a good game at Fir Park, and I'd like to see him score a big goal. But hopefully that's down the road, Colin.
That's to come. Yeah, absolutely. John, David sort of highlighted him, sort of talk on that. He was saying there that it looked at one point like Morelos' head had been turned. It certainly looked like his heart wasn't in it anymore. I think that performance against Hibs in the semi-final it could actually be the worst performance I think I've seen from Morelos in the Rangers jersey. He just looked so disinterested. But that goal today, that's his fourth goal since Gio arrived. I think there's a visible improvement in his movement, not just his goal scoring, and his movement and his general all-round sort of link-up play and stuff like that. And it seems like whatever the issue was, that Gio coming in has solved that, and we're starting to see the best of him again.
Yeah, I agree. Morelos is I don't know him, obviously. He comes across as a kind of moody guy. I know, and I think there's an element of the kind of petty lip and constantly angry on the pitch that's probably not actually true to his personality. When you see him in training and things, there seems to be a lot of laughing and joking, and he seems to be quite an effervescent character. There seems to be, he's a lot of life there. But for whatever reason, he didn't have a great start to the season. We can all speculate on what those reasons are, but he didn't have a great start to the season. He didn't end last season particularly well either, but he had a spell last season when he was just fantastic. And I kind of feel he's getting into that again, and it's actually maybe coming around the same time of the year, an important time of the year. And if he can keep that form up, he's the best striker in the league. When he's playing, when he's on it, and he is just now, he's the best striker in the league. No one can touch him. You have to give credit to the management team who've come in and very quickly been able to, point out his flaws or play to his strengths, or whatever it was. I remember Van Bronckhorst after I think it was after the cup final, after the cup semi-final, sorry, and maybe just after his first game in charge, and he asked about Morelos, and he said something like, I like my strikers to be between the posts.
Yeah.
And I thought that was quite an interesting comment, Now, ironically, Morelos did a lot of work, and in his own box today. At times, he was actually, he was quite prominent defending corners and set pieces. But he did come deep at times. He can come, he can hold the ball up, he can take the ball when he's back to goal, which is something Roof isn't great at. Roof couldn't do that the other night. Morelos can do it, and so he's not just playing as an out-and-out striker in that way, but he is most certainly being played as the main striker. As the guy everything's going to revolve around, and maybe it's just a confidence thing. Footballers are funny people. Maybe it's just a confidence thing. Maybe just the new guys coming in. We believe in you, whatever. Just got him going again, or maybe he's just scared for his space. Maybe he just thinks, what's the chance I'm not going to get a game here, so I better butt my ideas up. It could be as simple as that.
That kind of leads into something I've said to a couple of times in the pod. Is I do want. I'm starting to forgive Stevie G. Right, the initial anger and actual hatred I had at one point is starting to mellow, and I always forgive them. Right, anyone that lets us down, I always eventually come round, and I'm starting to feel that with Stevie G, and I'm starting to appreciate everything that he done for us. Right, but one thing I do think he was maybe guilty of is I think he let Alfie away with too much at times. And I do wonder if a new face coming in, new management team and all the rest of it has made him think, what, I might not get away with this anymore. I need to up my game a bit here. Yeah. I mean, as I said, football. How often have you seen the same group of players who have been underperforming, have been losing, who get their manager the sack, a new manager comes in, and that same group of players are suddenly transformed and they're playing entirely differently? Look at Aston Villa. You think, why is that? And because so much of professional football at that level is mental, is about controlling the heads of these guys. Their ability isn't in question. It's their capacity to take on instruction and to carry it through. And maybe that just Morelos just needed to hear another voice. He just needed to hear someone else tell him what to do. That he'd got, after a while, maybe you don't hear the same instructions anymore. They're kind of falling on deaf ground. I don't know. You and I spoke about this a while ago, and there's no point in kind of going over it again. But clearly something wasn't right before. We may never know. It may come out at some point, but clearly something wasn't right, Colin. I mean, we weren't playing particularly well. Our defensive, that iron curtain we had last year was being pierced at will. Players were off form. Kent was off form. Morelos was off form. Even Kamara wasn't playing particularly well. Guys who were the mainstay of that side last season just so whatever was going on at the club, and maybe the players all knew that the management team were off. Maybe this was an open secret inside the club, and this unsettled some of them. And now that we've got a good manager in place. We've been bringing in guys like Roy Mackay. You got to assume that all the forwards at the club are at least thinking, well, at least this guy knows what he's talking about. This guy's played at the absolute top level. So it's maybe just a response to that, Colin. And whatever it is, I'm delighted because he's such an important player for us. Yeah, it's definitely an improvement. I mean, it started that first night against Sparta Prague. We got the 2 goals that night, and I think since then it's not just the goals, as I say, it's his general all round, his running, mobility, link up play. I think everyone's improved. David, on to the second goal, and something that again that we saw a lot of last season, no so much this season, and there was sort of talk about it on on Chris Boyd and that today during the analysis that it wasn't just a hump up the park. I mean, it is okay, it's acceptable to go direct if you can find a player with a long range pass, and he tried it before and it just a wee bit far, it just sort of missed Aribo the first time. The second time he got his range right, the touch from Aribo to pull it down out of the sky was absolutely sublime, and then the finish. And at that point, I thought we are absolutely going to steamroller this mob. This is going to be one of the best days ever. You know what I mean? But obviously that never happened. But that goal in itself was just a thing of beauty, really.
Aye, definitely, Colin. Definitely. I think enormous credit's got to go to Connor Goldson. You're talking about guys that I've seen to have upped their game since the new managers came in. I think Connor Goldson's definitely one of them. For whatever reason, he's looking back to something like we know how Connor Goldson can play. I mean, in the way you would judge that is take Connor Goldson out of that team and imagine Bassey there with Balogun or Bassey and somebody else, and I think we'd still be shutting the goals that John mentioned there in his previous answer. Tremendous pass, dare I say it, Butcheresque. The way he kind of threaded the eye of a needle, and we know Joe Aribo's a footballer. We know that. We've seen enough of them in our time to recognise talent when we see it, and he pulls, as you say, pulls the ball down out the air. But for me, I thought the finish was the best part of the move. I know that was maybe a bit self-evident, but the way he took Craig Gordon out of the picture entirely, the finish is very, very good. And like you, I thought we were going to go on and destroy them. I was saying to Stuart before we come on air, I don't want to be hypercritical and too pernickety, because before a ball was kicked, if you'd have said to me, would you take 2-0 today? Of course I would have taken it. But that period just after we scored the second goal, I thought we could have went on and really, really put hearts to the sword and finished them. We didn't do that for whatever reason, but undoubtedly that goal was excellent. It looks, it's good to see something coming off, especially when somebody tries it, like a couple of minutes beforehand, and the ball's just maybe a wee bit of, too much weight in it, or maybe the run is just a fraction too late, and it makes the player that's releasing the ball look silly, that type of thing. But it came off perfectly, and Joe's finish was excellent, and fair play. I mean, for whatever reason, we've no seem to have clicked as a team. Some individuals on the side haven't been hitting the heights that they hit last season, but I think it's fair to say that Joe Aribo has been our most consistent player this season. As he carried us going forward, you could make a case for that. He certainly created chances for other players. He scored important goals. And I just hope that he can continue. Stuart, again, I've mentioned that I conversation off here, but Stuart had mentioned...
Did you have a separate pod off here before we came on?
He was mentioning there that he hopes that we don't ask too much of you, because you cast your mind back a few games ago, and it was very predictable the way we were playing. Always looking for Joe. Basically, the onus was on Joe to break teams down in the final third, and I just hope that we take the weight off him. Obviously, Ryan Kent coming back, and Ryan Kent is coming back to form. More importantly, can load balance Joe. So all's good in that front. So more of the same, please, Joe.
John, on Aribo, again, I think David's sort of on the money there. His form this season has been fantastic. I must admit, any time I see him in that sort of middle three, rather than I kind of prefer him on the right, cutting in on the left. I think that's where he does his best work. I'm always a wee bit when he's in that midfield. I'm always a bit I don't, not so much I don't like him there. I just prefer him up front. But today, and it's maybe the fact that we tried it before. The fact that Goldson tried that ball before. It shows you something that Gio's trying to do. Because we've seen it twice today. It worked once. And we've seen it at Livingston when Tavernier sort of went direct for Arfield. So with Gio saying that he wants his wingers to pull wide, he's not asking the fullbacks to push up so much. He's wanting his wingers to be wide. If Morelos drops a wee bit and pulls the centre halves out, there is that space for the likes of Arfield and Aribo to run into. So it feels that it's deliberate. It's not by chance. This is something that Gio's definitely trying to work on.
Yeah. Absolutely. Their teams are trying to. There's terminology these days which I still can't quite come to use, but I think they call it the press. Teams are pushing up to try and squeeze the space because they know otherwise we can pass our way through them. Gerrard's first couple of seasons, we were able to pass our way through teams much more easily, and in recent kind of last 6 months of last year and most of the season, teams have tried to take that space and left themselves open for in behind, for that ball in behind, because they don't think Rangers will play that ball. And this season we've introduced it, and I think it's been fairly successful. And I think you want to be in a position where teams don't know. ideally you want they want their defence unsure. You know, are they going to knock it over the top of us, or are they going to try and pass it through us, come at us wide, or come through the middle? And I think that's what Van Bronckhorst wants. I think under Gerrard towards the end we were a wee bit predictable. You know, it was all down to the fullbacks. It was all down to the fullbacks coming up them down the wing. You know, the number of times Tav and Barisic were expected to create the chances, and we don't seem to be playing that way just now. And I think that's quite important because I think that gives us more options, and it makes it harder for teams to figure out, you know, just where it's going to come from. But in terms of Aribo's contribution, which I think was actually what you asked me about at the start of the question.
Yeah, I did realise.
Meandered off in a whole other direction. But in terms of Aribo's contribution,
on Aribo, you know, if he keeps us going, you know, one of the questions I got asked by a drunk Celtic fan in a train coming back for the European game a couple of weeks ago was, who do you think Gerrard will take down to Aston Villa? And you would have to say at the moment, you know, Aribo could be possibly one of them. You know, if he continues this form, I mean, I don't think anything would happen in January because Aribo will be away at the African Cup of Nations, so I think that would be a tricky time for any move to happen. But if he keeps this form up, it feels like it's just a matter of time before we get some form of interest in him. Yeah,
he's got everything, Aribo. You know, he's got the touch of a guy. You know, I mean, like you say, David said, you know, the way he just brought that ball down, just remarkable. I couldn't do that with my hand, far less with my foot. You know, it is remarkable what he can do. You know, he has this tremendous touch. He has great, quick feet. Plus, he's got this, you know, height and physique. You know, he has the lot. You know, he has the potential to play at a very, very high level. He drifts in and out of games. You know, I think he is one of these players who drifts in and out. And if they could just, you know, if you could get to the point where you get, you know, an hour of Aribo every single match, where, you know, he is contributing something, then, you know, absolutely, I suspect he'll be one that will go. I'm not sure if he's. I don't know if he's quite ready for that. And frankly, as a jump up, I think, to the English Premier League, I don't know if he is quite ready for that yet. But you never know. You never know. I suspect if he leaves, he'll leave for a London club. He's a London boy, and I suspect if he leaves, he'll want to go for a team around that area. I could almost see a kind of Watford or a Crystal Palace or that type of team will be coming in for him rather than Aston Villa. I mean, what do I know about these things? But I suspect Gerrard and the coaching team, if they could choose, I think they'll possibly go for Patterson and Kent. I know I'm answering a different question again. I think those are the two most likely guys to go for. Aribo, I suspect Aribo will leave. You know, I don't think Aribo's here for the rest of his career. I think Aribo will leave at some point. My suspicions are he'll, you know, that's the type of club he'll go for, a Brentford. You know, a team maybe a Fulham, a team trying to get promoted into the Premier League, or a team maybe in the kind of bottom half of the Premier League. I think those are the most likely destinations for him. But if he can keep this form up, you know, who knows? Sky's the limit. And I mean, assuming the African Cup of Nations does go ahead, and assuming he does go and get picked, if he has a good tournament, you know, who knows? Who knows who could come in from? Because he has, as I said, he's got potential. He's got absolute everything. You know, on his day, he's a wonderful football player to watch.
David, 2-0 up, and you know, as we said earlier on, we thought going to steamroll them here, but again, I think this is maybe a wee sign of Gio, and it sort of falls into what was said with that. You know, we had the Feyenoord blogger on saying, you know, he likes to control games, he likes a nil. So when we go 2-0 up, it very much was Rangers sitting back and then trying to hit in the counter. And I find that interesting. One, that we can trust the defence now, and I don't think it's just the defence. I think as a team we're defending better. I think we're defending from the front better. We're a harder unit to play through. So that's making the job on the back four slightly easier. So that gives me, you know, a bit of belief and confidence in going forward. But I also felt when we did get turnovers of possession, especially in that first half, we had real chances to go on and create stuff, and quite sloppy in possession. You know, a couple of really good opportunities broke down, and you were just thinking, I thought just that wee bit better. We could have been out of sight at half time. We could have created the chances to score more goals. So positives there, but also stuff to work on.
Definitely. I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day, Colin. The guy's only been on for a few weeks, so I think he's managed to communicate his basic principles to the players. Most players have raised their level, although there's some players that just have a level, like Tavernier. He's just got a level that he doesn't seem to drop from or that much. Certainly in a physical capacity. So I agree with you. I think there was elements of Rangers play today that we showed signs of what we could achieve later in the season going forward. Like you, I was a little bit. If I could be critical for a moment, and I'm conscious of the fact that I don't want to sound hypercritical, because we've came away from a tough venue with 3 points and a zero, as Gio likes to call it. I thought we gave up too many chances to Hearts today. Saying that again, it's sheer offline. I just thought there was just a wee bit too much possession going their way, and I thought Barisic again was a wee bit kind of lax and stopping crosses coming out of the box.
Yeah.
Now we could see that's maybe the guy's Achilles heel. Borna's coming back to something like the form he's shown in previous seasons, and we're not expecting Iron Curtain miracles, to use John's reference to the famous defence of the 40s and 50s with George Young skipping Rangers. But by the same token, you want them to reach a better level, because we're capable of it. We've shown it. Going forward, I agree with you again. It was just that moment of sloppiness is maybe a wee bit too strong, but just not quite the levels of telepathy, if you like, and releasing the ball at the exact moment in time. Maybe just a fraction too late. And you guys know yourself, you've played football at any decent level. You know that fractions can just totally, a move can break down quite easily if somebody just holds onto the ball for a split second. They're maybe not thinking, as quickly or sharply as they could be upstairs, and that's all it takes. And if too many players are off it mentally, that's shown in the park. I mean, I've mentioned the game at Easter Road. That was quite evident in the game at Easter Road. There was a lot of guys just not on it mentally that day, and a lot of the passing was sloppy. Thankfully, we seem to have eradicated that out of their game going forward, and I'm grateful for that. But as an attacking force, and Rangers being the potent team that we know that they can be, then I totally concur with your observations that maybe just a wee bit more care and attention given to some of the passing and decision making in the final third. Then I think we can see Rangers going again to another level, and that's over. Taking the whole kind of overall holistic approach. The fact that we've still got another gear to go into, and we look as though we're threatening, as if we're not that far away from slipping into it. Whereas early in the season we're all going like that. Look, we've got gears to go into. But then the longer it went on, I can remember we stood at Newlands Field and we're talking about that. They're saying, but I think the last time we were at Newlands Field it was October time. You can't blame that in early season rustiness. It's you're 2-3 months into the season, and you should be up to speed by now. The good thing for me today is that we've shown signs that we're maybe not that far away, and that's going to be encouraging for the manager and the supporter.
On Borna, David, you've highlighted something that I'm speaking to my mate today on the text, and that's something that we were speaking about. And I think early on there was a pass put through in one of those early chances that Hearts had. I think it got played between Bassey and Borna, and Borna had to turn. I think it was Devlin that was coming on to it, and I thought Borna was a couple of yards in front of him and looked favourite to get it, and I thought he looked slow. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things now. At the early part of the season when Steven Gerrard was still here, and we were relying on the fullbacks to get the crosses in, I thought he looked slow, couldn't get past his man to get his deliveries in the same way. And I think the same is at the other end of the park. When when people are running at him, they're getting past him and getting crosses in. He's a yard or two off players. And I felt most of the dangers came down that sort of his side today, and he wasn't cutting out the crosses. And, I think the chance that I'm going to come on and discuss it with John just now, but some of the chances that they had in the penalty shout all came for that left-hand side. It all came for his side. And I do have concerns. And I do wonder that if when Hollander and Balogun are fit again, that Bassey will get put back out on that left-hand side and Borna might lose his spot.
Aye, I still think Calvin Bassey's raw. There's signs that he's got the basic tools that we can work on. I think he's performed well given his age to be pitched in the centre half position. A couple of slack passes aside that haven't been punished, which against other teams and maybe a different day might have been punished, and we might all be thinking, well, Calvin can't really cut it at centre half. But to get back to Borna, I agree wholeheartedly with you. I think it's you could possibly say that that's always been his Achilles heel. However, in previous seasons he had that recovery pace. Maybe if somebody went by him, he would get back. You cast your mind back to the start of last season, or the early part of last season. There was times when you watched Borna Barisic and you say there's not many people go by him, and then there was a period. Just I'm trying to think a game that sprang to mind. I seem to recall they were playing St Mirren in the Motherwell game that Cedric Itten scored, and he seemed to just come off it slightly where players were getting joy at him, and he wasn't so much getting targeted, but a lot of our opponents' attacking play was going down that side. But in his defence, maybe just 3 seasons of getting up, bombing up and down the park, for the first minute to the 90th minute is taking its toll on him. He could be carrying injury. A lot of people have been saying, he's maybe not been carrying injury, coupled with the fact that he's not a full pre-season. Now, you might say, that's you're making excuses for him, but I tend to agree with you, generally speaking, that he just looks a yard off. And I think that against better players and faster players, he could be exposed. But I think he's looked more comfortable since Bassey's been on the team. I don't know if that's just a happy accident or a happy coincidence, but I think he looks more comfortable when he's not trying to cover or second guess what Liam Balogun's doing. But let's concentrate on the positives. We've got another clean sheet today. We've got a couple of tough away fixtures coming up on the near horizon, and let's just hope that we can keep this going. And onwards and upwards. I think that's the best way to put it.
Absolutely, David. John, on to Hearts' chances today, and they did have them. Gary Mackay-Steven had that chance in the second half, although I think that was sort of speculative at best. I'd have been very surprised if McGregor had let that one. Boyce had his chance. Kingsley's hit the bar. Bassey hit the bar. It's almost two games in a row. He's got an own goal, but again, it came for that. The cross came for that side where Borna is. So again, with the benefit of hindsight and looking back at the game, despite the fact that Hearts had more possession and more shots and all the rest of it, I do think Rangers were largely in control of that game today and deserved to win. But and going back to what I said earlier on, as the team as a whole, we seem to be defending better. Not just the back four. I think the shape that we take out of possession makes it harder for teams to get through us. But still, maybe 3 or 4 moments today where you think, as David's just said there, against stronger opposition, could cause a problem.
Okay. You're not going to get much stronger opposition than Hearts this season. Hearts about as strong as it's going to get. They're sitting third in the league, clear third. That's about as strong as it's going to get. Hearts away. The only other fixture that's going to be harder than that is Celtic away. So I don't know. I think we're doing Hearts a bit of a disservice. I think Hearts are a decent team. I think you have to expect they're going to create chances. I don't think you can expect to go to Tynecastle with Hearts in the form they're in and they're not going to create chances. The free kick, the free kick's 30 yards out. It's a wonder hit. Fair play to the guy for being able to do it, but I don't know how do you defend against that? It's 30 yards out. I don't. It's not like we gave away a free kick in the 18-yard box or something. the guy, I wasn't particularly aware of that player until a few weeks ago when he scored a similar free kick from a similar distance. I think I don't think you can necessarily blame the defence or even the team for that. If they've got a boy in their team who can hit free kicks from 30 yards, it didn't go in. Had it been a few inches lower, might it have gone in? Aye,
no,
possibly.
I think McGregor was getting there.
So I'm not as concerned about that. The boys' chance at the very start, we touched upon, it was a speculative one over the top. I thought that, the centre-halves were caught napping. Keeper bailed them out. We've talked about players who have come back into form. One player we didn't talk about was McGregor. Who 4 or 5 weeks ago, folk were saying, maybe it's a season too far for McGregor. Maybe McGregor's, maybe he should have retired in the summer, or and suddenly he's just suddenly found form again, and he earned his cash today, and he did what was asked of him. But as I said, I think Tynecastle away, Colin, I think you've got to expect that Hearts will create chances away from home. I do agree with you that they did look more dangerous coming down our left. None of us really fully yet know what kind of team Van Bronckhorst wants, but he's changed how our fullbacks play. As we touched upon earlier, our fullbacks were under Gerrard. Our fullbacks were often our most attacking players. Yeah. That was the style that Gerrard wanted, and Barisic and Tav fit into that. I don't think that's how Van Bronckhorst wants to play. I think, whilst he still expects his fullbacks to get forward, he still expects his fullbacks to be, part of the attack. I don't think he expects them to be the fulcrum of the attack, which is something that Gerrard did. Yeah. In which case, then you have to question whether both Tav and Barisic, but particularly Barisic, are actually then going to be suited to that. And it may be that, Barisic is there just now because he pretty much is our only left back. And he's certainly our only left back just now whilst Bassey's playing at centre half. So it may be that he's in the team because we don't have anyone else to play there. But he's not actually Van Bronckhorst's type of left back. And bear in mind, Van Bronckhorst was a left back. He wasn't a left back when he played for us, but he was when he went to Arsenal and then on to Barcelona. I guess he knows what he's talking about. And I would always think of Van Bronckhorst as quite an attacking. Yeah. When I heard he was playing fullback for Arsenal, I was like, bloody hell, he was like our best midfielder. How does he end up playing fullback for you guys? But then when you realise how they wanted to play and about the style of football they wanted to play, it made a bit more sense. I don't know what the plan is there. But in terms of how the team is defending, I don't know. I don't feel we can criticise them too much today. I think you have to expect Hearts to create chances at home at this stage of the season and the form they're in. The point is, none of them went in. Bassey remains the biggest threat to McGregor in the Scottish League.
Except when he's going on marauding 80-yard runs in the sort of the 93rd minute.
The 85th minute or something as well.
It's like, at first I was like, where's he gone? And then I was like, oh, actually, just keep going, keep going, son. And if I had went in, it would have been superb, absolutely superb. But before I move on, John, the Hearts penalty claim in the second half, again, this sort of shows the issue with VAR. I think, folk are saying that VAR would call that back and make it a penalty. But there's so many different opinions. I mean, I've seen loads of people say that, it was a penalty. I'm not convinced it is. I think his hands are down by his side. I think Gary Mackay-Stevens quite close to him. I don't know where else he can put his hand. And I suppose Michael Stewart in Sportscene saying that it's not a penalty shows you that it's not as clear cut as I think most people would say, and to me it would depend who's on. But I don't think you're getting it's not like VAR is this thing. VAR is another person sitting behind the screen saying yes or no. You know what I mean? But my view on it, not a penalty. Yours?
Well, today, I needed a couple of replays before I even realised that it hit his hand.
He's hit his hand, yeah.
I think the ref deserves some criticism, and I think you might get to that shortly. But I don't think he deserves criticised for that because I don't think, other than Mackay-Stevens, I don't think anyone realised that it hit his hand. It wasn't a clear-cut handball. I think VAR would give it. Having seen some of what they've given in European matches and what they've given in England, I think it's the kind of daft thing that VAR would pull back.
That's another thing. Would VAR not pull it back and say, because I think there's a chance the ball's actually out in it.
Well, that's a fair point as well. I thought the ball was out as well. But in terms of the decision, I think the ref made the right decision in not giving the penalty. Yeah, you're right. Perhaps VAR would have said, "I did handle it," but it doesn't matter because the ball was out of play. I don't know, but I don't blame the ref for not giving it. If it was 2 each, and at that point, and the ball had hit his hand like that, would we be hearing more of it? Yeah, I think we would. I think it's the kind of thing that these days would be making a lot more noise in the media. And the fact that you've told me Michael Stewart said it's not a penalty worries the life out of me, because I've never agreed with anything Michael Stewart has said. So, it's concerning now that we're heading down that particular rabbit.
Well, if you're wanting reassurance, Andy Walker said it was a stone waller. So there we go. So you can disagree with him.
I tell you one other thing we learned today, Colin, if we didn't already know, Alan McCoist is a great pundit. But clearly not the guy who should be making any managerial decisions. And there was 2 or 3 times I was thinking, what are you talking about, just McCoist? What? And you're thinking, no, I think you've got that wrong. I love his enthusiasm and his affection for Rangers. He's never had it, and he's great that way. But yeah, I think there's a reason Van Bronckhorst are manager and not Super Ali.
Somebody made a good point, because they were talking about like Barry Mackay obviously scored the first goal for Rangers in the lower leagues. Where were we that day? Peterhead. And so McCoist was the manager, obviously. So he was talking about, we got a draw that day in the last minute, blah, blah, blah. And then 2 minutes later, he was questioning Van Bronckhorst's tactics, and somebody's pointing out that it's good of Ali to highlight how shite his own Rangers team was, whilst questioning, Van Bronckhorst's tactics.
I know that's what he's paid to do. I know it's the gig, and we're standing here questioning tactics.
That's what we're doing, yeah.
We couldn't organise a team to win it, but and that's part of what's beautiful about football, is that people with literally no experience of anything can make criticisms of decisions made by guys far more qualified to do it. But yeah, I did think there was times when Ali was making criticisms like that one you talked about, where I did think, Ali, I would just be keeping my mouth shut if I was you. I'd be sticking to the one-liners just now, mate.
Yeah. David, we have to talk about the referee. Have to talk about him, because obviously he's going to get some stick. I'm assuming the headlines tomorrow will focus on the penalty. But some of his decisions in terms of the bookings were really, I think Robbie Nielsen was saying, 13 bookings in the game. It didn't feel like that type of game. It was quite a good game. I think he was right with the Hearts boy that was sent off, Kennelly. I think he was right there. I thought that was one of the most stupid, 2 stupid yellows that I've ever witnessed, especially the second one. I think initially it's Borna that sort of, he's the one that reacts badly. But as soon as he's on his feet, it looks like him and Devlin have sorted it out. They've kind of accepted that, this is a bit of handbags. And then he just comes running in wanting to make a big thing of it. And I think he's quite right in getting the second yellow. But some of the other yellows were really bizarre. And it became really card-happy at one point. The yellow I enjoyed the most was who's a Hearts player with the ponytail? Is it Hanley? He was applauding Devlin getting booked, and so he got booked for sarcastically applauding the booking. And that, to me, that's the point I felt. Nick Walsh has lost the plot here a wee bit. He's just throwing cards about willy-nilly.
I think that if I could try and sum up my criticism of him was how he booked James Tavernier. What he's seen there, I don't know. I don't know. Obviously Tavernier gets fouled and then he falls on top. I think it is the boy Devil. And somebody, I seen online that somebody referred to him as the Australian Ian Black. I think that's quite apt. But
it's a lovely concept, that, isn't it?
It was
just when you thought Ian Black couldn't get more unlikable, when you make him Australian.
I know. But I think Nick Walsh is one of the better referees that we've got. Like we spoke about refs often enough for the years we've been doing this, and there's a reason why there isn't a Scottish referee at major tournaments, and the standard of refereeing is average at best, and that's me being charitable. I think Nick Walsh has the potential to maybe be, if not our best referee, could certainly maybe get back to representing Scottish football, at bigger games in the European arena, if you like. Could be wrong there, but his performance today, he didn't lose control of the game. The penalty, could have fallen for not seeing that. I didn't think it was a penalty. I'm with you. I thought his hand wasn't in an unnatural position, but I've seen him given. I'm going to slightly disagree with Robbie Neilson. I thought it was it developed into quite a towsy affair in periods. Where there was kind of needless free kicks, a lot of typical, breaking up play, and some of the tackles were just, whilst none of them were particularly bad or dirty, just some of them it was persistent fouling and quite cynical passages of play management, for want of a better phrase. And it did threaten to let the kind of cards run away with him. The boy Ginnelly was, I don't know what he was thinking. I mean, Barisic reacts. I wish how he actually reacted to that. I wish he would play like that and actually, go and impose himself. As Barna's a big lad. He's about 6'2", 14 stone. I mean, he should be thundering into people. So, but to digress slightly there, I thought the refereeing was maybe average at best. I think put it this way, Nick Walsh will have far better games in his refereeing career so far, and he'll have far better games than he did today going forward.
John, just to sort of wrap up on today's game, that's 6 games in since Gio's took over. 5 wins, 1 draw, scored 12, conceded 2. One of those was an own goal. As much sort of frustration and anger that was sort of swirling about when Steven Gerrard, upped and left, and you would maybe have to say now that the start is such that it points that it was maybe actually something that was needed, because it feels like Gio's come in, and if the start is a sort of sign of how things are going to progress, then it looks like he's taken us on to another level.
You have to give him and his team, his backroom team, and I think also the people at the club, enormous credit for what has been a fairly seamless change. Again, this is something we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. I don't think we should underplay how huge a change that was. Gerrard and his entire backroom staff leaving. That's a massive change. And an unusual change for our club, and that managers usually only leave our club when things are going badly. When you're looking for somebody to come in to fix a problem, and that wasn't what happened. It wasn't a problem to be fixed. And what Van Bronckhorst had to do is come in and take over someone else's team. Players who have got used to playing in a certain way, who must have got close to the coaching teams, come in and very quickly get to know those players, get to understand their strengths and their weaknesses, and more importantly, get them winning. And the stats speak for themselves. And when you dig a little deeper, Colin, that's 2 European games, a trip to Tynecastle and a trip to Easter Road in those 6 games. Mm-hmm. That's good in anyone's. Under any circumstances, you have to say that's pretty good. So it's very impressive. I'm far exceeded what I expected would happen. I thought we'd have a blip. I thought there'll be a 2 or 3 weeks where it's just not quite working out as he figures out who's who, and the players try and adjust. But it's been utterly seamless. In fact, it's been better than seamless, because we're actually playing better now than we were before this happened, and the kind of month or so before Gerrard left. So that's fantastic. It's too early to say whether Van Bronckhorst is a success. It's 6 games. It's too early to say, we will have setbacks. We're playing St Johnstone on Wednesday. They're bottom of the league. They're having a terrible season. They sold their 2 best players in the summer. They didn't replace them. There must be pressure on their manager. There'll be, their players will be feeling pressure. We should go into that and take 5 off them. But that's just the kind of game where they'll come and sit everybody behind the ball, frustrate us, kick us. That's the kind of game where you suddenly see what Van Bronckhorst is made of. That kind of game, you're not expecting it. You're not expecting any bother. The kind of game we're expected to win. So we'll see. And as David alluded to, a couple of harder away games coming up as well. In the next few, I was going to say this month, but I think one of them's actually January, isn't it? So we'll have a couple of harder away games coming up as well. It's always a difficult time. There's lots of games. Weather's rotten, pitches are bad. Bookings have been accumulated. You'll start to see guys getting suspended now for just 3 or 4 or 5 bookings in a season. So we'll see all of that. So we'll see what Van Bronckhorst has got. But I've been hugely impressed by how he has come in and just taken control of a big club, and in a country that he's probably not been in for 20 years, but certainly hasn't. I don't imagine he was following our league all that closely. Has come in and has done it seamlessly, and I think that's enormous credit to the players. It's a credit to the board and the people involved in the running of the football side of our club, but especially I think to him and his backroom staff. The biggest compliment you can play him is the fact that we're not missing Gerrard, and history will judge Gerrard's time at Rangers very, very well. Gerrard brought more than just a sense of a football team again. He brought more than just a style of play. He brought a gravitas with him. He put Rangers on a map that it was in danger of dropping off after 2 or 3 missteps, and he very quickly put us back on that map and made us a serious football team again. And Van Bronckhorst has come on and just moved that forward, and I'm delighted about it. I'm absolutely delighted.
David, say how are you feeling about Gio? I mean, obviously it's early days, 6 games and all, but it does feel like he's put us in the right direction.
Definitely, Colin. I agree with most of what John's saying. To come in, you'd be forgiven for expecting a blip. It's not an easy situation to come into, but I think we're maybe selling the guy short. I mean, he's managed at a decent level. If you win the Eredivisie, you're no mug. So he's assembled a good backroom staff. John mentioned Roy Mackay maybe lighting a fire under the Colombians' posterior to their benefit. And I think I like the compactness of it. I like the more, it's kind of horses for courses. I mean, there was an element of, Gerrard playing a Liverpool style, if that's the right phrase. And I mean, a Liverpool style insofar as it's, a German coach, that's kind of has an imprint, high wingers. I think I've mentioned this before, maybe in the previous pod, but, latterly, this German model has been on vogue, whereas, the previous maybe decade, the Portuguese model seemed to be the on vogue tactic, if you like. I like the fact that, backs are backs. Yes, they'll overlap, but the main duty that they've got is to defend and keep the ball out of their net, as opposed to creating chances for our strikers. And John's right when he mentioned there about Alfie staying within the width of the post, or at least the width of the 18-yard box. And that's how Chris Boyd played. I mean, when Boyd had turned up, the first thing you noticed, because obviously we'd only see him when we went to Rugby Park, or if Kilmarnock came to Ibrox, the first thing that stuck out like a sore thumb is that his what we perceived rightly a lack of mobility. He stayed within the confines of the 18-yard box, but you've got to be in there to score. So I like the fact that it's round pegs for round holes, if that makes sense. So I think the signs are encouraging. I'm looking forward to seeing him put his imprint on it. by way of the type of player that he signs. That'll give us an insight into how Gio really wants to play. It's all very well and good, keeping the ball rolling with, someone else's players. And that obviously feeds into the bounce, because for the players' perspective, they know that they're not the manager's guy. Whereas previously, you were rightly speaking about somebody who's been too comfortable like Morelos, knowing that he can, that Gerrard has stuck his neck out for him publicly to defend him. And whilst a lot of the time, a significant number of the Rangers support was going like questioning, he shouldn't be doing stuff like that. But Gerrard backed him. So these players know that they need to impress. And I like to, bringing in his own players. I think the signs are good, Colin. I think we've got an experienced guy, as John rightly mentions. He's no mug. He doesn't seem to be tactically outthought. He also makes changes. He makes tactical changes and substitutions where, you're maybe sitting watching a game saying, we need a change here. And then what happens, 20 seconds later, somebody's getting stripped in the dugout, and then a substitution's made. That type of stuff's encouraging. Yeah. But as John again rightly says, nothing's won yet. We're only 6 games in. We've got a few tough games to negotiate coming up over the next few weeks. And if we come out, on the credit side, and we maintain our lead, as I've said in previous pods, over our chums, then, we've got something to build on, and we've got something to, not clingy, but we've something to show. Like we've done it in the past, we can go again. And if the board can make some funds available, maybe we move a couple of players out in order to allow a bit of shortening in the transfer market, assuming there's availability there, then I think the signs are good. Cool. Positive.
Just quickly, I'm going to be sorry, David. Sorry, just quickly on that. I noticed today, and the same thing happened on Thursday night. We finished both games without a recognised centre forward on the park. He took off Roof through the week, and then today he took off Morelos, and I just assumed he was going to push Sakala in, and then he took Sakala off. And we finished both games without a recognised centre forward. I mean, we still had attacking players on the pitch, but that's not something that I think would ever happen under Gerrard. I think under any circumstances he would have kept, somebody who would be seen as a centre forward on the pitch. I thought it was quite interesting. I'm not entirely sure I'm in agreement with it, but I thought it was quite interesting thing to do.
And it falls in with he likes an L. That's it. That's it. Get all your strikers off and get all your defenders on. Quickly, guys, I'll just get your quick opinion because we're slightly over. Europa League draw tomorrow. We could get either Atalanta, Barcelona, Dortmund, Leipzig, Porto, Sevilla, Sheriff, or Zenit. David, who would you want out of that?
Sheriff, Tiraspol, or Porto?
Don't want Porto. I've seen them. Right, John, who would you want?
Yeah, no, I was going to say Porto. I think Porto because you think, well, cool, we got a chance of beating them, chance of going through. I still, bit of me thinks, go on, give us Barcelona. Yeah. Why not? If you're going to play in Europe, then play against, the big clubs in there, and by their own standards and slight disarray just now. So maybe them, but yeah, I'd fancy Porto. The Sheriff mob, obviously, I know very little about, other than the fact they beat Real Madrid in the Bernabeu earlier this season. So they're clearly no mugs, and they're according to when Saturday comes, run by the organised crime ring. But other than that, I don't know. It seems ironic they're called Sheriff. But that's all I know about them. But yeah, I'm just glad to be there. I'm just still grateful we've got European football after Christmas. I'll never take that for granted.
I hope we don't get Sheriff now, because I can't deal with all the Sevco crime ring tweets that are whenever if we get drawn with them, you know what I mean? I just can't deal with that.
Anyway. Money laundering, yeah.
Right, guys, I think we'll call it time there. We've kind of ran over a wee bit. So a big thanks to David and John for their contributions tonight. Great stuff from them as always. Remember, guys, we were live tonight, but the pod will be available to download and stream from a variety of platforms tomorrow. including Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, Spotify. We'll try and get a preview show out this week for the St Johnstone game. Obviously, we'll have one on Friday as well for Dundee United next week. In the meantime, get yourself onto the Gersnet website and forums at www.gersnet.co.uk. Until the next time, guys, bye for now.